Mike Tyson didn't believe in ghosts until his first night in prison, cell 47. D Block. Indiana Youth Center. Bottom bunk, thin mattress, walls that seemed to breathe. Lights out at 10 p.m. Darkness, so complete it felt physical. He lay there with his eyes open, adjusting, waiting for his pupils to dilate enough to see shapes. The toilet in the corner. The sink. The empty bunk above him. His cellmate, Raymond Washington, was in the infirmary. Wouldn't be back until morning. Mike was alone. Except he wasn't. He felt it before he saw it. A presence. A shift in the air. The way a fighter feels an opponent's intention before the punch comes. Then a voice. Old. Steady. Coming from everywhere and nowhere. You're in my spot. Mike's body tensed. Fight response. Immediate. Automatic. But he didn't move. Didn't speak. Just listened. Relax, Tyson. I'm not here to hurt you. A pause. I'm here to save you. Mike turned his head slowly. And there, standing outside his cell in the darkness, was the outline of a man. Old. Thin. Gray beard catching what little light existed. How'd you get here? Mike's voice was quiet. Controlled. Doesn't matter. The old man stepped closer to the bars. What matters is why. You know how many famous people come through here? Mike said nothing. Dozens. Every year. Athletes. Celebrities. People the world knows. The old man's eyes reflected something. Maybe the emergency lights. Maybe something else. And you know how many survived their first month? How many? Not enough. The old man leaned against the bars. There are 3 rules in here, Mike. 3 rules that the guards don't teach you. That the system doesn't acknowledge. But they're real. More real than these walls. Mike sat up. Who are you? Raymond Washington. This is my cell. Been mine for 23 years. His voice was calm. Almost kind. And I've seen too many good men break, because nobody told them the truth. What truth? Raymond's eyes locked onto Mike's. That prison doesn't just take your freedom. It takes your identity, your power, your name. Everything that made you dangerous outside makes you a target inside. Mike felt the words land like body shots. But there's a way to survive, Raymond continued. 3 rules. Follow them, you might make it. Break them. He shook his head. The guards won't be a problem. We will. Mike stood up, walked to the bars. The old man didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched him with eyes that had seen versions of this conversation play out dozens of times. Why should I listen to you? Mike asked. Because I've had 7 cellmates in 23 years, Raymond said quietly. And 6 of them are dead. 5 died in this cell. 1 made it 3 weeks before they found him in the shower with a shank in his neck. The darkness seemed to get heavier. What happened to the 7th? Mike asked. He listened. Raymond's face showed something that might have been a smile. He's in minimum security now. Gets out next year. Got a job waiting. Got a family that still claims him. He survived because he understood something on his first night that took the others weeks to figure out. What? That being Mike Tyson don't mean shit in here. The words cut through the dark like a blade. Mike's hands gripped the bars. You think I don't know that? I think you know it up here. Raymond tapped his temple. But not here. He touched his chest. And that's the difference between walking out of this place and being carried out. Mike stared at him. This old man who talked like he'd already seen Mike's future. Tell me the rules, Mike said. Raymond nodded slowly. Rule 1. Your reputation is a curse, not a blessing. Every man in D Block knows who you are, Raymond continued. They've seen your fights. They know your record. They know you made millions while they made nothing. They know the world feared you while they got ignored. Mike said nothing. So they're going to test you. Within 48 hours, someone's going to bump into you. Hard. On purpose. In the chow line, in the yard, in the shower. Doesn't matter where. And when they do, everyone's going to watch to see what Mike Tyson does. And what should I do? Nothing. Raymond's voice was firm. You apologize. You step aside. You make yourself small. Mike felt his jaw tighten. You want me to be a coward? I want you to be smart. Raymond leaned closer to the bars. Because if you fight back, you win the battle but lose the war. You prove you're still dangerous, and every young kid looking to make a name will come at you. One after another. Until one of them gets lucky. Until one of them catches you slipping. And then you're just another story guards tell during orientation. The ventilation system hummed in the silence. But if you do nothing, Raymond continued, if you eat that disrespect, if you let them think you're soft, they'll leave you alone. They'll think prison broke you. They'll think you're not worth the trouble. And that's when you can actually do your time in peace. Mike turned away from the bars, paced the small cell. 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. The dimensions of his new world. "'Cause taught me never to back down," Mike said quietly. "'Cause ain't here." Raymond's voice was gentle but firm. "And the lessons that made you a champion will get you killed in here. This ain't the ring. There's no referee, no rules, no bell to save you. Just men with nothing to lose and everything to prove." Mike stopped pacing. "What's Rule 2? Raymond straightened up. "Rule 2. Choose your friends carefully, because in here, friendship is a contract written in blood. I'm not looking for friends. You don't have to look. They'll come to you." Raymond's eyes were steady. "Within a week, someone will offer you protection.
A gang.
A crew. Someone with power who wants to use your name. They'll make it sound like a favor, like they're helping you. But the moment you accept, you're owned. I don't need protection. Everyone needs protection in here," Raymond said. "Question is, are you willing to pay the price? Because protection in here costs more than money. It costs loyalty, obedience. It costs pieces of yourself you can't get back." Mike leaned against the wall, cold concrete against his back. "So what do I do?" "You stay neutral. You respect everyone. You threaten no one. You become part of the background." Raymond paused. "It's harder than it sounds. Because your ego will tell you that you're Mike Tyson, that you don't hide, that you don't bow to anyone. But your ego is what'll get you killed." Mike closed his eyes, saw Cuz's face, heard his voice. "Be a warrior, Mike. Never let them see weakness." But Cuz never saw the inside of a place like this. "And Rule 3? Mike asked, eyes still closed. Raymond was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different.
Softer.
Almost sad. "Rule 3 is the hardest one." Mike opened his eyes. Raymond was no longer at the bars. He was sitting on the floor of the corridor, back against the opposite wall. Like he needed distance for what came next. "Rule 3. Remember who you were, but accept who you are." Mike waited. "You were the baddest man on the planet," Raymond continued. "You were a champion, a millionaire, a legend. People chanted your name. Women wanted you. Men feared you. You had everything." "I remember."
"Good. Hold on to that."
"Because it's all you got left." Raymond's voice cracked slightly. "But you also gotta accept that right now, in this moment, you're inmate 922335.
You eat the same food as a serial killer. You follow the same rules as men who'll never see daylight again." Mike felt something tighten in his chest. "And that ain't fair," Raymond said. "It ain't right, but it's real. And until you accept that reality, until you stop being Mike Tyson the champion and start being Mike Tyson the immature, going to fight a war you can't win. So you want me to give up? I want you to survive." Raymond stood up slowly. Old knees, worn joints. "I want you to walk out of here in 3 years with your mind intact, with your soul intact. I want you to have a chance at a second life." "Why?" Mike asked. "Why do you care?" Raymond looked at him for a long time. Then he reached into his jumpsuit and pulled out a photograph. Yellowed, creased, held together with tape that he held up to the bars. A young man, maybe 25, strong, confident, wearing boxing gloves, standing in a ring. "That's me," Raymond said quietly. 1969, light heavyweight, 15-0. They said I was going to be the next big thing. Mike stared at the photograph. "What happened?" "I killed a man outside a bar. Argument over a woman. He disrespected me. I couldn't let it go." Raymond put the photograph back in his pocket. I was supposed to fight for a title shot the next month. Instead, I've been in here for 23 years. Life sentence. No parole. The weight of those words filled the cell. So when I see you come through those doors, Raymond continued, when I see another fighter, another champion, another man who thinks his fists are the answer to everything, I see myself. And I want to save you from making the mistake I can't undo. Mike didn't know what to say. Didn't know if there was anything to say. Raymond turned to leave. Then stopped. One more thing, he said. Tomorrow morning, a man named Hector Ruiz is going to introduce himself. He runs the South Side crew, controls half the contraband in D Block. He's going to offer you protection. He's going to make it sound reasonable, smart, safe, and you're going to politely decline. You're going to tell him you appreciate the offer, but you're doing your time solo. He won't like it, but if you say it with respect, he'll accept it. What if he doesn't? Raymond's face was grim. Then you're going to have to make a choice between Rule 1 and survival. And that's a choice I can't make for you. He started walking away. His footsteps echoed down the corridor. Raymond, Mike called out. The old man stopped. Turned. Why are you in the infirmary? Raymond smiled. Sad. Knowing. I'm not. I've been standing here the whole time. Just wanted to see if you were worth saving. When Mike woke up the next morning, Raymond was on the top bunk. Asleep. Breathing steady. Like he'd been there all night. Mike sat up. Looked around the cell. Everything was the same. Toilet. Sink. Bars. Concrete. But something felt different. He felt different. Morning count came at 6 a.m. Doors opened at 6:30. Breakfast at 7:00. Mike moved through the routine. Kept his head down. Didn't make eye contact. Became part of the background the way Raymond taught him. In the chow line, a man bumped into him. Hard. Deliberate. Testing. Mike felt his muscles tense. Felt his hands start to form fists. Felt every instinct trained into him rise up and demand action. But he thought about Raymond. About Rule 1. About the photograph of a young fighter who threw away everything for pride. My bad, Mike said quietly. Stepped aside. The man stared at him. Surprised. Maybe disappointed. Then he walked away. And Mike Tyson, former heavyweight champion of the world, carried his tray to an empty table and ate his eggs in silence. That afternoon in the yard, Hector Ruiz approached him. Mike Tyson. Not a question. A statement. Mike looked up. Hector was everything Raymond said he'd be. 42, but moved like 25. Shaved head. Neck tattoos. Eyes that calculated everything. That's me. Heard you had a rough first day. Man disrespected you in the chow line. Hector smiled. That ain't right. Man like you deserves respect. Mike said nothing. So I'm here to offer you protection, Hector continued. My crew runs D Block. Nobody touches our people. You roll with us. Nobody bumps into you. Nobody tests you. You get to do your time in peace. Mike thought about Rule 2. About the price of protection. I appreciate that, Mike said carefully. But I'm doing my time solo. Hector's smile faded. You sure about that? I'm sure. They stared at each other. The yard went quiet. Men stopped playing basketball. Stopped lifting weights. Stopped talking. Everyone watched. All right, Hector finally said. Respect. You change your mind. You know where to find me. He walked away, and Mike breathed again. That night, Raymond spoke from the top bunk. You did good today. Doesn't feel like it. Never does. Survival don't feel like winning. It feels like losing in slow motion. Raymond was quiet for a moment. But you're still breathing. And in here, that's the only victory that matters. Mike stared at the ceiling, at the springs of Raymond's bunk above him, at the shadow of a man who'd save his life with 3 simple rules. How long until I stop feeling like a coward? Mike asked. About 3 years, Raymond said. Right around the time you walk out those gates. Mike closed his eyes. For the first time since arriving, he thought he might actually make it. Not as Mike Tyson the champion, but as Mike Tyson the survivor. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. 3 days later, Mike saw Marcus in the yard. The 19-year-old kid Raymond had mentioned. Scared. Alone. Being circled by Hector's crew, Mike watched from the pull-up bars. Remembered Rule 1. Remembered Rule 2. Remembered Rule 3. Remembered who he was and who he had to be. He walked toward Marcus. Not as a champion. Not as a savior. But as someone who remembered what it felt like to be alone, And sometimes Mike learned that was the bravest thing you could be.